Ooh, 17, pretty good. Welcome to Behind the Screen. With me, Robert Hartley. I am the GM, or Games Master, for this lovely chaotic group, Viva la Dirt League. I'll be taking you through the campaign so far, particularly the epic or crucial moments. I'll be telling you about how I planned for those particular scenes, how I intended for them to go, what actually happened, and what might have happened differently if they'd made different decisions or the dice had rolled differently. So come with us on the journey and learn a little bit about what's going on behind here. Of course, there will be some spoilers for the series if you haven't caught up, but we are currently up to episode 69, so there'll be no spoilers past that. So, in episode 63, Barradoon and the Dickheads were on an airship, leaving the Dead Frost.
Someone quickly come jack me!
And, well, Bodger... Yeah, that happened.
Birdman!
Man willingly overboard!
So I had placed Erin, the Aarakocra, on the team as a way of actually saving their life if any of them had fallen overboard during a pirate fight. I had created a pirate fight as filler just in case we were getting through content quickly and I needed a little filler time before we get to the sponsored content. I know, naive of me. But Erin was there just for that reason.
Can I test that concept?
You can certainly do so if you want.
Oh my god!
But ironically, by the fact that I made him, he was necessary. If I hadn't created an Aarakocra that could catch them, Bodger wouldn't have felt the need to test it, and so it wouldn't have needed to exist in the first place.
Whoa, you can catch me now!
So, to give you some context first, this section of the table session was right after we came back from lunch break. During that lunch break, we'd had a talk about plot armor and how, because I come up with stories based around the characters and their backstories, I tend to keep my player characters alive a little bit longer. Because if you create an entire story about one particular character's backstory and then character dies, you have to do a lot of rewriting. But Rowan specifically asked me, can you remove all plot armor from Bodger? I don't want you to ever fudge a dice for me. I want there to be a real sense of peril and consequence for my action. Yes, Rowan asked me for consequences to his actions. The first thing he does when we get back from lunch is throw himself off of an airship. So all the rolls you see in that day, all of them, every time I say he's failing, every time I say he's failing, every time I say that he just makes the DC, that was all real. He was only just making the DC. If he'd have failed any of them, Bodger would have died.
Is Bodger dead? Is Bodger dead?
I don't know.
I think we just watched Bodger kill himself.
Bodger just died!
So, as fall damage works, rules as written, is you instantly fall 500 feet at the start of your turn, every turn until you either hit something or stop falling. And when you hit something, you take 1d6 bludgeoning damage per 10 feet fallen, up to a maximum of 20d6. So if you fall 200 feet, you take 20d6. Anything above that, it's just 20d6. 20 six-sided dice averages about 70 damage. So rules as written, a barbarian could rage right before hitting the ground, half the bludgeoning damage incoming, and as long as they've got more than about 35 hit points, they could walk away without even getting knocked unconscious. And I think that's nonsense. I studied physics and maths at university, so my fall damage in my games is a little bit more brutal, let's say. Using my rules, Bodger would have taken literally thousands of points of damage and died. He would have become a lumpy stew over the landscape of the icy below. And at that point, I genuinely don't know what I would have done. This is one of the moments that I hadn't prepared for. I didn't have plans. I pride myself on having contingencies, and I probably would have had to just take 5 minutes, pause the game, and say, listen, I need to work out what happens now. So here's a few of the things that I think we could have done. Either we could have had Bodger respawn on the airship as if he's a video game character and he just respawns, but that would have immediately reduced any sense of danger from death, and therefore gone entirely the opposite direction of why we removed the plot armor in the first place. We could have had him respawn in Honeywood, which essentially would have just written him out of the campaign.
I think we just move on with our lives and accept that Bodger's dead.
We could have had him respawn by losing some levels or some items. He did just grab his grandfather's hammer after all. That would have given him some consequences for his actions, but it also would have just unbalanced the party and given me more work to do in future fights if the rest of them are level 10 and he's only a level 5 because he killed himself. But my favourite option, the one that I imagine we probably would have gone with, is the guys would have been looking over the edge of the ship, see a little red spot appear on the ground below, and then turn round and realise that Balin is fishing off the other side of the ship.
Morning.
And Rowan would have played Balin for a few rounds until he re-rolls a completely new character. And maybe when they got back to Honeywood, they'd find a level 1 Bodger who's unaware of everything that they'd done.
You madman! What was that, Bodger?
Thank you for that.
So if there are any players watching, if you ever want to test how well prepared your GM is, throw yourself off of an airship. Thanks for watching Behind the Screen. I'll see you next time.
If you want to see more of the stuff that we do, there are links around me, and I would like you specifically to subscribe if you haven't. Thank you.